Tara Victoria Beautiful Scott. I love you so freaking much, baby doll. I hope you have tons of fun on this trip you're about to go on. I know it'll be fun to get away, but promise me you won't forget about me. And remember, wherever you go, you'll always have that piece of my heart, and you'll always have my heart. You have grown to be a part of my family, and I feel like I've grown to be a part of yours. I don't care if anyone tells us that we're not going to last, because in my mind, I have big plans for us to go all the way through life together. I know people say it won't happen, but I know we can do it, baby. I've never felt this way about anyone or anything in my entire life. It's the best feeling, and I will never let you go. You know, I'm always here for you, baby, no matter what. Besides, we're like a married couple, Tay. LOL. I've grown so close to you in these past 4 months. I know we have a lifetime together, so I know I have tons to make up to you because of my bumpy start with our relationship. But Tara, baby, I know I can make it up to you. The beach is going to be so awesome together. Waking up early in the morning, staying out on the beach late at night. It's going to be the best thing that's ever happened to me. Except when I asked you out for the first time. Little did I know, Tara baby. But my life changed so much. And I know that I've met the girl I need. And I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I need you, baby. And you know, you have me. I'm totally committed to you and our relationship together. I can't wait to give you that promise ring. It's going to be the best feeling that I've ever experienced. It's gonna mean so much to us, and I know will last forever. I love you so much, Tay-Ray. I never knew I could fall in love at this age, and my love for you grows every second I'm with you or away from you. Tara, baby, you're the most beautiful woman I'll ever meet or see. You're so amazing, and I'm so glad that God blessed the broken road that led me straight to you. I'm sorry. I just need a second, okay? It was just so touching. No, it's gross. It's weird. It's quite honestly one of the most hilarious things I have ever read. And not because he's trying to be funny, but because he's actually serious. Like, this guy really thinks that this is what love is like. And I hope for us, you know, like, after talking about what love is for the past couple of weeks and how God designed it, that we're supposed to chase after him first and foremost and look for a person of character, I hope that you can see just how shallow and silly this really is. I mean, seriously, like, I've grown so close to you these past 4 months, and I know we have a lifetime, so I can make up for all of the things I did in a bumpy start of our relationship. Ha! But anyways, enough about this dude. Tonight we're talking about purity. And part of that is that we're going to be talking about sex, but one of the main things that I want to do tonight is answer just a really basic question. A question that I really never heard an answer to or a good explanation of when I was your age. And that question is, why? Like, why should I stay pure? Like, what's even the point? Because if I'm being honest, like, when I was your age and it came to relationships, the questions in my head weren't about how I can get closer to God every day and pursue purity. Like, the questions were, how far is too far? Or what if we're in love and we're gonna get married anyway? And isn't looking at this stuff and doing this stuff fine if just nobody knows about it, or if it's not really hurting anybody? But when it came to sex, I had this understanding in my head that sex is bad and you shouldn't do it. Like, I didn't know why, and nobody really ever explained anything to me, but I just knew that sex was bad, so you didn't talk about it. Like, don't even think about it. Hey, what? Are you thinking about sex? What? Who? Me? Well, yeah, well, no. Stop it! And if you didn't gather this already, this view of sex, it's not only completely inaccurate according to the Bible, it's extremely unhealthy. Like, it's unhealthy psychologically for a person to be told their entire life that sex is bad. Like, don't talk about sex, don't think about it, don't bring it up. You just sit and you wait, you shut up, and if I hear you say that word again in this house, you're grounded. And then a few years later, you grow up and you get married and you're expected to just, like, flip a switch. Like, yeah, you know, the whole time that we were telling you over and over, like sex is bad and you should never do it and stuff. You're good now. Like, what? That doesn't even make sense. That's not healthy. That's not how God designed sex. And so let me just say this for everyone. Like, I want you all to hear and know this. Sex is good. Like, let me say it again. Sex is good. God made it. He knew what he was doing. He's in favor of it. I mean, he put an erotic love poem in the middle of the Bible, for goodness sakes. Like, he made it to be powerful, and he made it for a reason. And thankfully, he's given us parameters for how we, as his creation, can enjoy sex to the fullest. And that's why we're talking about it today. Because our culture, it has a very different idea about sex, and it's hurting us as human beings. Like, it's hurting you, it's hurting me, and most people, like, they don't even realize it. And if you don't believe me, you just have to look at the science and statistics. Like, it's ironic. We as Americans, we live in a country and culture that is completely obsessed with sex. Like our TV shows, our movies, our music, advertisements, social media, apps, it's everywhere we look. We are a sex-saturated culture. And the ironic part is that we are one of the most sex-saturated cultures in the world, while at the same time being the most sexually dissatisfied culture in the world. And we can see that, like sexual addiction and dysfunction are on the rise, as is marital unfaithfulness, divorce, pornography use, depression, and self-reported sexual dissatisfaction. Like, just think about that for a second. Like, we live in a time and place where sex and sexuality are more readily available to us than they have ever been in any culture in the history of the world. It's literally all around us all the time, constantly glorified in every form of popular media and merely a click away at any given moment. And yet, despite that, we're a sexually dissatisfied culture. But why? Like, I mean, it doesn't seem to make sense. It's everywhere. How can we be dissatisfied? But our culture, it's so sexually obsessed, so driven to seek it at every turn, while ultimately not finding what it's looking for because it has no idea what true sexuality is all about. And so the ideas and images and the portrayals of sex that we get from our culture, they're messing us up. Like, they're confusing, and they are in conflict with what God tells us about how He wired us and created us and what sex is really all about. And so why does this matter? Like, why are we talking about sex in a talk about purity? Because I think it's essential that we understand the fullness and magnitude of what God created sex to be, so that we don't settle for and buy into the cheap and minimized counterfeit versions of what our culture is selling us. We're told that sex, it's not a big deal, that it's just about satisfying a base, physical, animalistic desire and then moving on. That everybody does it, and it's weird to keep sex only within the confines of marriage. And that Christian and God, they're prudes and they're just against sex. But let me say this, like, that is such a small, weak, dangerous, inaccurate, and immature understanding of sex. God made sex to be so much more than that. And we can see that if we just look back to the beginning in Genesis. Like, when God created Adam and Eve, God says that the reason a man leaves home is to be joined with his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. Like, one flesh. It's really an incredible picture. It's a picture that's way different than the picture of sex we get from the world around us. I mean, this is two entire beings coming together, and the physical act becomes a picture of a deeper spiritual reality. Like, sex itself, it becomes more than a physical experience or a simple satisfaction of a base desire. It becomes this fulfillment of a deep and holistic desire, the physical, emotional, spiritual desire for intimacy and love, for us to fully know another person and to be fully known by them in covenant. And I want to explain the word love real quick, because I don't want you to misunderstand it. Because I can say love in a bunch of different ways that mean a bunch of different things. Like, the love that I have for my family is way different than the love that I have for sandwiches. Even really good sandwiches. Like, they're just not the same. And so when God is talking about covenantal love in marriage, I don't want us to get confused with the sandwich love. And so bear with me. I think you'll actually find this really interesting. We're going to look at the 3 Hebrew words for love that God uses to describe a healthy foundational love in Song of Solomon. And those 3 words are raya, ahava, and dod. And more than just being fun to say, like, these types of love all need to be present in a healthy marriage, and they all build off of each other, which is just cool to me, to see how God designed love and how love builds over time and adds layers. But if we look at the very foundation of love, we see this word raya. And raya is this type of love that you have for a friend. It's this word for love that brings up images of a best friend or a soulmate or a companion. If you raya somebody, you love talking to them and you just love hanging out with them. And then you get to the second one, which is Ahava. And Ahava is a much deeper type of love and a much more committed love than Raya. It's built on a foundation of Raya, and it just gets more intense. It's this deep longing and affection. It's a love where you just want to be near that other person, wherever that may take you, where you can't even think about anything else sometimes. It's just the love where if you're apart from them, it just makes your heart hurt. It's a love where you can look at a person you love and truly be able to say, like, I'd rather be here with you right now than anywhere else in the world, no matter where you are. But even more importantly than that, it's a committed love. And it isn't a love that's based on feelings or happiness or the qualities or performance of the one who's being loved. It's this love of the will, a love where a decision is made to, like, just love madly and unconditionally no matter what. In Song of Solomon, it goes as far to say that Ahava is stronger than death. And then there's dod, and dod is, well, it's the romantical kind of love. It literally means to caress, fondle, or rock. Like, dod is erotic love, it's sexual passion, it's a deep physical yearning for an experience of another person, but it's more than just physical. It's intimate sexual love. And so we have Raya, Ahava, and Dod. And God's plan in Song of Solomon is that all three of these work in combination with one another. That you have Raya as a foundation, and then Ahava gets built on top of that, and then Dod completes this picture. And when this full sense of what love really is in a relationship, like what God's design is for love between a man and woman is all about, like when that is present, sex becomes an incredibly physical and spiritual melding of two souls forever as a symbol of an unbreakable covenant of marriage. And that is an awesome picture. But the reality is that Dod without Raya or Ahava, it's empty and it's stripped of the beauty and meaning that God designed it for. Sex without friendship and companionship and deep, unbreakable, lifelong commitment is something less than God designed it to be. You see, ultimately, sex is this fulfillment of the deep desire inside every one of us to be fully known and still loved completely. Like, we want that. We want to know everything about someone and have them know everything about us, good and bad, and love us deeply anyways. And jumping into sex before finding out everything about the other person, it tricks our emotions into thinking that we're fully known, when we really aren't. Like, it makes us believe that the Raya and Ahava are there because we're at the end of the process, when really they've never been cultivated. It makes us think that we know each other spiritually, emotionally, and intellectually when we really just know each other physically. And then when we're not being physical, like in those moments of the relationship where sex isn't happening, aka most of the time, everything just falls apart because we haven't built a foundation of knowledge and unconditional love to build the relationship on. And that's just kind of this really simple answer to the question of why our sex-obsessed, sexually indulgent culture is so terribly unsatisfied. Because it is settled time and time again for less than God's design, less than God's best. Because it has no idea what true sexuality is all about. And unfortunately, a lot of people, they would hear that, and some of your friends, maybe even you, and think, well, of course a Christian would say that. Like, you're just blindly following a set of outdated rules because you serve a God that likes telling you what to do. Like, he's just like, blah, 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 follow my rules, don't ask questions. Like, he's keeping you from something. Like, God doesn't want you to have any fun. And can I just tell you, like, that's such a bunch of garbage. Like, let me just say, I don't know if you've read the Song of Solomon, but they are having a blast together. I'll just put it that way. But I get the objection, though. Like, we don't like guidelines in our culture. We feel like they're holding us back. Like, the rules that God has in place for us is his way of keeping us from something. But again, that's a lie. Like, God isn't keeping you from something. He's preparing you for something. He has his best in mind for you. And when you decide to give into your selfish, counterfeit, I know better than God, I can do what I want versions of what he designed, you're totally missing out on the fullness and beauty of what God designed for you as a way of connection and celebration. And let me just hammer this home too, because I don't want anyone to be able to leave here with a thought like, this probably is for everyone else. Like, I've got this under control. This probably doesn't apply to me because I'm actually in love. I mean, I barely even look at porn. It's only like a few times a week. Okay, maybe it's every day, but like I could stop whenever I want. Like, if I was gonna get married, I'll just stop then. Like, I've got this all under control. I'm in control. And I need to caution you. Like, from my experience and understanding, from a lot of research, a lot of reading, hearing a lot of stories, and from studying the Word of God, let me caution you, be careful thinking like that. Like, be careful about playing the role of God in your life. Like, just think of it this way. It's like putting water into a gas tank. And yes, we're going to compare sex to a car for just a second. But I think we all understand that for a car to work best, as it's designed, to function at the best of its ability, you need to put gas in it. Like, those are the parameters set for you by the manufacturer. That's how they designed it to work best. And so it comes highly recommended that you use your car in this way. And now, to be fair, those parameters, they don't take away your choice. Like, it's your car. You can do whatever you want. And so maybe one day you just decide that it would be fun to see what would happen if you put water in the gas tank. Like, someone told you it'd be fine, it would definitely be cheaper, but it didn't seem like a big deal. And so you just thought you'd water it up. And now, just because you had the choice to put water in the gas tank, that doesn't mean you're living more free, because the car, it isn't moving. You see, God, he put these parameters around sex for it to be a symbol of love and connection and celebration within a covenant marriage that's built on Raya, Ahava, and Dod, because he wants you to experience in a safe and loving marriage what it is to know and be fully known. Like, he wants you to get the most out of it. These parameters are the gasoline to the engine that allows you to enjoy and experience sex to the fullest. And when you put yourself in control and decide to settle for cheap counterfeits of sex that our culture is pushing, you're putting water in the gas tank, and you're expecting everything to work out perfectly, and that's just not what God designed for you. But now, let me bring it back to the original question for a second. Like, why? Why should I make purity a priority in my life? And here's what I think. It's because God, He has something more in store for you than what this world has to offer. God created you intentionally, and He wired you for connection. That desire in us to pair off and be with someone was put in us by God Himself. Like, it's okay to feel that. God made us that way, with this desire to really be known by someone and loved in spite of our flaws. And what a beautiful picture that is of what our relationship with God should look like too. Like, it's important for us to realize that the sin in our lives, it hinders our relationship with God. Not because of Him, but because of our desire to be in control and do what we think is best as if we know better than God. And so it's important for us to know that when we're impure, whether that's sexually with a person, with pornography, or whether we're not pure because of pride in our heart, or anger, or bitterness, anxiety, lying, cheating, stealing, being hurtful with our words, whatever sin it is, it's getting in the way of our relationship with God. You see, sin, it builds up these walls between us and God. And if we aren't careful, that distance, it can lead us to believe the lie that God doesn't care about us or our desires. And so we try and we fill those voids with whatever, fill in the blank. And when we believe that God isn't enough for us and that He doesn't love us unconditionally, we tend to fill that void and that feeling of loneliness, that desire to be known. We fill that with another person by crossing boundaries sexually, by looking at 2D images on a computer screen. But let me say it again, that is such a cheap counterfeit to the type of love and relationship that God created us for, and it will never bring you satisfaction. We've been talking a lot during this series about preparation, about preparing yourself for marriage by running after God with everything you've got, by becoming a person of character, and now by pursuing purity as you continue to love God more and the people around you better. And the best thing that you can do for yourself is to just run after Jesus with everything you've got, because He has what's best for you in mind and desires nothing more than for you to experience the fullness of what He created you for. And now, let me just finish by saying this. To maybe the person who's watching this and has made a mistake and thinks that they're just too far gone. To the person who thinks that this might be a great idea for kids who haven't messed up, but unfortunately that's not me. I want you to hear this. No matter how far you've gone, no matter what you've seen, what you've looked at, etc., because of Jesus, you can be made pure. Jesus, He broke down those walls on the cross so that a full and unconditional relationship between you and Him, it could be possible. He chased us down. He made the ultimate sacrifice so that you can be made pure. So let today be that day for all of us. The day that we decide to chase after God with everything we got, to become men and women of character and to live lives of purity, so that when that day comes, when you all get married, you'll be able to look that person in the eye and experience the fullness and beauty of the love that God designed you for, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And remember, sex is good when it's done right. God even says so.